I'm Opal Palmer Adisa, and what is my story? I'm Jamaican and I've been living in the Bay Area for 20 odd years. I am a writer and a performer and an ethnographer and a photographer, and I'm very much interested in African diaspora culture, which is a part of the Jamaican heritage. And yes, so that's in a nutshell is my story. One of the reasons why I think I've been in the Bay Area so long is because there are all of these different cultures that one gets to experience in many different levels, in dance, in music, in food. And so when I heard about the Performing Diaspora, I thought how appropriate for the area and how appropriate for the way of sharing one's culture. The piece I'm developing is called Mile and colon, words as healing. And Mile, if you go to Jamaica now, you talk to a lot of people who are not steeped in the culture, they'll not know what Mile is. They'll probably more readily know what obia is, which is the flip side of Mile. Mile comes from an African tradition of healing, and it has to do with ancestral, communicating with the ancestors, and healing through use of dance, through use of herbs. My spin on it is that healing comes through words, and that the first healer was the poet, was the wordsmith. And so I am evoking the power of words and language as the medium through which this happens. One of the things that I want to do with this piece, Mile, I want people to understand that healing is imperative in our lives now, in our urban lives now, and that there's so many things that bombard us, that injure us, that we just kind of, we pretend like we're, it's water on a duck's back, but in fact they really penetrate us. And I'm suggesting that there's a way in which we need to be more conscious of the words we speak and the words that we allow to cloud our minds, and that for us to be actively engaged in healing, so that healing is not just something when you have a physical pain, although oftentimes when you have a physical injury, and people, they've done enough about cancer now, that cancer has to do with stress. It has to do with things that people take in that then manifest in this way. So my piece is actually very timely and very urgent for those of us who are living in very urban cities who have, in a sense, forgotten about our tradition. And every tradition has healing. I am just bringing that African tradition here and using language as the medium. I have practiced, and I'm associated with the Yoruba religion and the Santeria, which is an African religion. And I know a lot of people who are African, who are Europeans or who are other things, who are attracted to aspects of it and who are practitioners of it. And so it has forced me to stand back. I think there's a difference between people who are very serious about a tradition and practices as opposed to other people where it's a culture, where I call them vultures of a culture. It's a thing that's in, it's a fad. So I think for those people who see the merit and the value of it and who go into it very seriously, understanding it's not their tradition but wanting to learn and immerse themselves in it, then I don't think anyone owns culture. I think culture is for us to share and to disseminate. Because I'm trained so much in education and I've been in the field of the academy for so long, it always starts with learning as much as I can about it in terms of what has been written historically, the etymology of it. So when I got the grant to do this piece, even though I'd known about Mile, I'd seen it, I really went back to study it in terms of trying to find everything that was written about it. I went back to Jamaica to interview some people to see if they were practicing it and how it has evolved. So that is my process generally when I'm going to do something, is to find out as much as I can about it. And then I try to get all of that information out of my head, which is sometimes difficult, and then to internalize it. So to let me really become it, to embody it, so then that I can write about it and perform it. And this has been the challenge with this piece, because I'm still gathering information, which I really need to stop. I know that I have enough information, and that what I have is enough to chart the piece, to create the arc of the piece the way I want it now. I think what I love about being a writer and a performer is that I always amaze myself, and that I discover language. I discover the meaning of language. I discover a language that touches someone else. I mean, so to me it was very uncanny today when people say I gave them the right word, you know, because I think there's something organic or spiritual, or I don't even know what to call it, that happens when an artist submits to their art, and that it takes on a whole nother level of truth and connectiveness that cannot be approached if you go through it intellectually. You have to embody it, you have to surrender to it, and then the magic of it happens, and other people share in that magic.